I wake up beside James every morning, and it's as if we're two strangers occupying the same space. It's not that we argue. It's not even that we're unhappy. It's just, well, we're empty. A quiet silence fills our days, and I've started to wonder, when did we stop being a couple? When did we stop being us? For the longest time, I thought it was normal. Life gets busy, kids need attention, work piles up. But there's a quiet ache in my chest, a nagging feeling that I can't shake off. The smile I put on every day, it feels so forced. It's like I'm living for everyone but myself, and I've forgotten how to live for me. When did I stop showing up for myself? I thought I had everything figured out, until one conversation with Kate made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. Before I begin, let me ask you, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments below. I'd love to know how far my story is reaching. My name is Sarah Knight. I'm in my early 30s, and from the outside, my life seems perfect. Stable marriage, 2 kids, a cozy house in the suburbs. Everything looks just the way it's supposed to, doesn't it? But if you look a little closer, if you look beyond the polished exterior, you'll see that something is missing. It was a Thursday morning, ordinary like any other. James had already left for work. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, feeling the coldness of the empty space beside me. The house was eerily quiet. The kids were at school, and I was alone with my thoughts. When did this happen? When did everything start to feel so distant? I got up and walked to the bathroom. The mirror reflected back a woman I barely recognized. The same tired face, the same forced smile. But the eyes, they were different. They were hollow. She seemed like a stranger, staring back at me. The weight of the years, the missed connections, the growing distance between James and me, had slowly worn me down. I felt like I had lost myself along the way. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was just tired. But as I stared at myself in that mirror, something clicked. I don't know who I am anymore. It's like the woman looking back at me was someone who had forgotten how to feel alive. I had no idea that one conversation with Kate was about to completely change everything. I had no idea that this deep dissatisfaction I felt, this ache in my chest, was just the beginning of something much bigger. I had no idea what I was about to find, or who I was about to become. I had spent so many years trying to keep it all together, pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, I felt like something was missing, and I didn't even know how far it would take me to find it. Kate. She had always been there, a close friend, someone I trusted with my life. But lately, when we'd talk, there was something different in the air. Maybe it was her laugh, or the way she'd look at me just a little longer than normal. Was it just me? Or was something shifting? I had always believed that I had everything figured out, that my life was the one I had planned. But then, in a simple moment, everything began to unravel. That conversation with Kate, I never imagined it would leave me questioning everything I thought I knew about myself. Before I continue, I want to thank all my amazing subscribers for helping my channel grow. Your support means so much to me. If you're enjoying these stories, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any more. I've been married to James for 7 years. 7 years. You'd think that after so long, the bond would be solid, unbreakable even. But somehow, it's as though time has worn it down, like we've become 2 people sharing the same space but living different lives. Our relationship shifted from passion to routine. The excitement, the spark, the little moments of connection we once shared, all of that is fading. Now we're stuck in the mechanics of life. Work, bills, kids, dinner, sleep, repeat. We don't fight much. We don't even argue. We just exist. The kind of existence that's comfortable, predictable. But there's no fire left. And I've started to wonder when I stopped feeling alive. When I stopped feeling anything. At first, I blamed the kids, the house, the endless responsibilities. But slowly, I began to realize it wasn't just the logistics. It was us. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being us. James was always the reliable one, the steady rock. But now, even he feels like a stranger. I'm caught in the weight of a life I thought I wanted, but now feels like a prison. I had everything I thought I needed, but that wasn't the life I wanted anymore. That's when Kate came back into my life. Kate and I had been best friends for years, long before James and I met. We'd always been close, but life took us in different directions, and we lost touch for a while. She had her own life, her own relationship, and I had mine. But when she reached out to me one day, it was like nothing had changed. We picked up right where we left off. And that's when everything started to shift. I didn't expect it, but when we met up for lunch that first time, something felt different. She wasn't just my old friend anymore. There was something electric in the air between us. The way her eyes lingered on mine, the way her laugh seemed to reach into me. I couldn't ignore it. I tried to. I told myself I was just happy to have a friend again, someone who really understood me. But it wasn't just that. There was something deeper now, something I wasn't ready to face. I thought I could ignore the spark between us, but the more time I spent with Kate, the harder it became to keep pretending. The lunch we had that day lingered in my mind long after we parted ways. We talked about everything, our lives, memories, funny stories from when we were younger. But as we spoke, I couldn't ignore the way her gaze softened when she looked at me, or the way her hand brushed against mine as we reached for the same salt shaker. It wasn't anything overt, nothing physical, nothing to make anyone suspicious. But it was there under the surface, a connection that had always existed, but now felt different. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was just because I hadn't felt seen in so long. Maybe Kate was just easy to talk to, and I was missing that emotional connection I'd been starving for. But the more I saw her, the stronger the pull became. Her presence made me feel alive, something I hadn't felt in years. I didn't want to feel this way, but the more I pushed it down, the stronger the pull became. And then the questions started. What was I doing? Why did I feel this way? Was I just searching for a way out of my marriage? Or was there something real between me and Kate? I wasn't sure anymore. I loved James. I did. But the connection I had with him, it was gone. Or maybe it had been slowly slipping away for years, and I was just too afraid to admit it. But with Kate, it was different. There was a connection I couldn't ignore, a spark I hadn't felt in so long. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional. Kate made me feel seen in a way James hadn't in years. And that terrified me. I wanted to pull away, to run from this feeling. But the more I tried, the more I realized I didn't want to run. If you're feeling the tension between Sarah and Kate, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps the channel grow, and I want to know if you're hooked just like I am. Stay tuned. The weeks of stolen moments, of quiet exchanges and stolen glances, had all led up to this. I couldn't ignore the pull anymore. Neither could Kate. There had been something unspoken between us for so long. A subtle tension I'd tried to convince myself was nothing more than fleeting curiosity. But as each day passed, the weight of it grew heavier, pulling at me in ways I didn't know how to explain. It wasn't a conversation I had expected. I didn't plan for it. But as Kate and I sat in that small cafe, the one where we first reconnected, the air between us felt different. It was thicker now, heavy with unspoken words. The silence between us was charged, almost as if everything we had ever wanted to say to each other was about to spill over. Kate looked at me, her eyes not just meeting mine, but searching through them, looking for something, or perhaps searching for me, for us, in a way I didn't realize was possible. I've been in love with you for years. Kate's voice broke the silence, soft and almost broken, but full of honesty. I felt a chill run through me, a mix of fear and relief. Fear because I wasn't ready to confront this part of me, but relief because I wasn't alone in this confusion. She had felt it too. I froze. My heart thudded in my chest, louder than I could ignore. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I didn't know what to say. All I could do was look at her, trying to process the truth she had just laid before me. I've been avoiding this. You've been avoiding this, I finally whispered, my voice shaking. She nodded, her eyes not leaving mine. And that's when I knew. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I feel it too, I confessed, my voice barely audible. The words spilled out of me before I could stop them, raw and exposed. I hadn't even realized how much I had been hiding from myself. But now, with Kate's confession, it was like something inside me cracked wide open. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I had been afraid to admit it, but the truth was undeniable. And now it was too late to go back. Her hand reached across the table, resting gently on mine. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't forced. It was as if we both knew the significance of that simple touch. There was no turning back now. And then she leaned in, her lips brushing against mine. It wasn't wild, it wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. A soft, tentative kiss that sent a wave of emotion flooding through me. In that moment, I felt every bit of the longing I had buried for so long. The kiss was a spark that ignited a fire, burning away the guilt, the hesitation, and the years of feeling invisible. This wasn't about passion or lust. It was about something deeper, something I hadn't realized I was missing until it was right in front of me. For the first time in so long, I felt seen. As our lips parted, I realized that this wasn't just an affair. This was everything I had been longing for, everything I had been missing. The moment the kiss ended, I sat back, my heart racing, my breath shallow. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Everything had changed. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And I knew deep down there was no going back. The life I had been living, the marriage I had been holding on to, seemed so far away in that instant. It wasn't just the kiss. It was the connection I had with Kate. It was the emotional bond we had, one that I didn't even realize had been growing between us. And now, as I sat there, with her hand still gently holding mine, I knew this wasn't just about physical attraction. It was about everything I had been missing for so long. I had found something I didn't even know I was looking for. And it scared me. In that moment, I knew that I couldn't go back to the life I once had. But what did that mean for me, for James, for everything? If you're as hooked as I am, don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Let's see what happens next together. After the confession, Kate and I continued to meet. It was a secret, but it was no longer a secret that felt small. The stolen moments, the quiet exchanges, the touch of her hand in mine, all of it was everything I had been missing for so long. Kate made me feel alive in a way that I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't about the physical. It was the emotional connection that I hadn't realized I had been craving. With every moment we spent together, I felt a little less like the woman who had been trapped in a marriage that had stopped speaking to her soul. But the guilt, oh, the guilt was suffocating. It crept up on me in the quietest moments, when the world was still. I'd walk into my house after being with Kate, and the walls seemed to close in around me. Every room felt foreign, even though it was the same place I'd once built my life. James didn't know. He couldn't know. But the truth of what was happening between Kate and me made every day feel like I was living on the edge of something I could no longer control. It felt like living in two worlds, and I was starting to drown in both. I started to find myself counting the minutes between visits with Kate. The anticipation, the excitement, it consumed me. Every time we parted ways, I couldn't help but replay the moments in my mind. Her laughter, the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. It was addictive, like I was finally getting the validation I'd been starved for. But at home, things with James were slowly unraveling. I could feel the distance growing between us, but it wasn't just physical. It was emotional. I tried to pretend everything was fine. I told myself I was just being dramatic, that maybe it was a phase, something I could ignore. But the cracks were already there. I'd come home, and James would barely look at me. He was lost in his world, his job, his phone, the mundane details that used to matter. There were nights when we sat at the table together, eating in silence. No conversation, no connection. I would tell myself it was okay. But deep down, I knew I wasn't okay. I was being torn in two directions, and the weight of it was crushing me. I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending. One evening, after spending time with Kate, I sat alone in my car, parked in the driveway, staring at the house in front of me. The lights were on inside, and I could almost hear the hum of life continuing without me. I could hear the clink of dishes, James on his phone, the kids' laughter. But all I felt was emptiness. The weight of the secret I'd been carrying felt unbearable. The lies, the distance, the choice between the life I had and the life I was longing for. It was all crashing down on me. I realized in that moment, sitting in the dark, that I couldn't keep living this double life. It wasn't sustainable. Something had to change. I could stay with James and pretend nothing had shifted, pretending I wasn't in love with someone else, pretending that this marriage could be saved with more routine and more time. Or I could follow my heart, follow the love I had for Kate and face the consequences. But no matter what I chose, I knew I was going to lose something. The truth was suffocating me, and I didn't know if I could breathe again until I made a choice. The internal battle I fought every day felt like it was tearing me apart. On one hand, I loved James. He was my partner, the father of our children, the man I had spent years building a life with. But on the other hand, I couldn't ignore the pull I felt toward Kate. Her love made me feel seen in a way I hadn't realized I was missing. I didn't just want her physically. I wanted her emotionally. I wanted someone who could see me for who I truly was, not just the roles I played. I felt like I was being selfish. I loved James, but I was falling for Kate in a way that made me question everything. And yet, every time I was with Kate, I felt more alive than I ever had before. I couldn't stop it, and I couldn't deny it. But the fear of losing everything, of breaking apart my family, was just as powerful. What was I willing to sacrifice for this new life? And was it too late to turn back? Leave me a comment telling me what you think Sarah should do next. Would you confront the truth? Or let it go? I read and replied to every comment. The weight of my secret affair began to seep into every corner of my life. Like poison, spreading through my veins, poisoning the very things I had spent years building. My marriage with James, once a stronghold I could lean on, now felt fragile, like it was held together by threads I could no longer see. The guilt, that gnawing, ever-present guilt, was a constant companion. It shadowed my every move. Every glance exchanged with James felt like a silent accusation. I would catch him staring at me, but his gaze was distant, empty, as if he could sense that something wasn't right. But neither of us had the courage to speak the truth. And then, one evening, as I sat at the dinner table, the unspoken tension between us was almost unbearable. I could feel the space between us, the miles of silence that had stretched out of our love, and it was in those moments that I started to see it clearly. Ethan, my husband, the father of my children, was beginning to suspect. He wasn't blind to the subtle changes. The late nights, the distracted moments, the times I would come home from seeing Kate with a smile that didn't belong to him anymore. He was silent at first, but I could see the way his eyes would linger on me longer than usual. The walls that had once been built between us were beginning to crumble, but I wasn't ready to face it. I could feel the walls closing in. The silence between us was deafening, but somehow I knew the storm was coming. I was torn, completely and utterly torn. Kate, the woman who had awakened something deep inside me that I had long forgotten, had become the center of my world. Every moment with her felt like I was living again, like I was finally seen. But James, my husband, the man who I had built a life with, the father of my children, he was still here, still by my side, though more distant than ever. I couldn't deny the feelings I had for Kate. They were raw, real, and too powerful to ignore. She made me feel alive in a way that I hadn't felt in years. But the reality of what I was doing, of betraying James, suffocated me. I knew that no matter what, someone would get hurt. My heart wanted to be with Kate, but my loyalty to James, my family, was pulling me in the opposite direction. How could I choose between two lives? How could I face the consequences of a choice that would tear apart everything I had once held dear? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't just choosing between two people. I was choosing between two versions of myself. The internal conflict was suffocating. Every day felt like I was drowning in a sea of guilt, confusion, and longing. I would sit with James, pretending everything was fine, when all I could think about was the last time I saw Kate. The way her fingers brushed mine, the way her smile made everything else fade into the background. And yet, when I was with James, I couldn't help but wonder if I was just pretending to be happy. Had I been living for so long in a life of habit, a life of duty, that I had forgotten what it meant to truly live? I kept asking myself, was I being selfish? Was I destroying my family for something that could never last? But the pull of Kate, the connection I felt with her, was undeniable. And as much as I hated myself for it, I couldn't ignore how alive I felt with her. I was torn between the family I had built and the life I was starting to build. But how long could I keep pretending everything was okay? One evening, I found a letter Kate had written. It was a letter filled with words I didn't know how to process, words that echoed in my mind long after I had read it. She confessed her love for me. She told me how she had always wanted more, how she had silently waited for me to see her the way she saw me. But there was something else in the letter that struck me. Kate knew the risks. She knew that if anyone found out about us, it could destroy everything. The letter wasn't just a confession of love. It was a warning. As I held it in my hands, I realized that I was at a crossroads. Everything I had built was at risk. My marriage, my family, my identity. Was it too late to undo the damage? Or had I already made the choice deep down when I kissed Kate? The truth was staring me in the face, and there was no turning back. The damage had been done, and the weight of it was suffocating me. I reflected on the choices I had made. Betrayal, real betrayal, wasn't just about lying or cheating. It wasn't about the kiss or the stolen moments. Betrayal was the quiet erosion of trust, the slow fade of connection that happened long before anything physical ever took place. It was in the silence, the neglect, the unnoticed needs that festered in the dark. I realized I hadn't just betrayed James. I had betrayed myself. In seeking validation and passion from someone else, I had lost sight of the person I was before all of this. I had let myself fade into the background of a life I no longer recognized. Sometimes, betrayal isn't just about the other person. It's about the parts of yourself that you've hidden away for too long. And now I had to decide. The consequences of my actions were clear. I could stay with James, try to salvage a marriage that had long been drifting, or I could embrace the love I had found with Kate and risk everything. The choice I made would change everything, and I knew there was no easy way out. Some love affairs are never meant to last. But this one had changed me, and I wasn't sure if I could ever go back to the woman I was before. Some love affairs are fleeting, but others change you forever. And this one changed me in ways I couldn't undo. You can love someone deeply, but that doesn't always mean you're meant to stay. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find who you're truly meant to be. Like this video if you enjoyed the story. Subscribe if you want to see more. Share this story with someone who needs it, and turn on the notification bell so you can be the first to know when I post more. Let's keep this conversation going. And don't forget to check my previous video for more stories like this.